Marketing with a Podcast, The Long Game, Episode 66. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am your host, Moshe Amsel. And after I completed recording today's episode, I realized that I did not talk at all at the beginning of the episode about the free coaching opportunity that we're running right now. So I actually am recording this intro here that's going to be inserted before. So when I finish talking about this, it's going to jump into, well, hello and welcome to Profit with Law. We're going to do that again. I apologize, but I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to hear this right here on the front of the episode. We have less than 2 weeks that we're offering these 90-minute laser free coaching sessions that basically, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you're not getting the traction that you need, you don't have the momentum in the growth of your firm, you're not getting to the point where you're able to live freely, you're working on the weekends, there's a ton of things that might be going on that just don't feel right to you, and it's not why you started your firm, but you can't figure out why. You can't figure out what's happening, why can't you achieve the results that you want. That's what we cover in this 90-minute laser coaching session, where we dive deep into what is it that you want and why is it that you're having trouble getting that. So if that sounds like something that would be helpful to you, it does lead to, at the end of the call, I'm going to tell you about a 90-day law firm turnaround group coaching session that we're running. It's starting on March 16th. So this conversation will lead there, but it's absolutely all about you, and the coaching session is completely independent of the pitch at the end, although they're very well connected. In other words, if you want guidance to help you with the process and help you get out of your own way, then you can continue by working with me for those 90 days. But you will walk away from that coaching session with much more clarity on your situation and perhaps some direction on where you need to be going. So if this sounds like something that's interesting to you and that might help you in any way, definitely sign up. There's only a few slots left. It's really, really busy. My calendar's pretty full. There's only a few slots left in these first 2 weeks of March. So you want to go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, and snag one of those available slots before they're gone. If you don't find a slot that is available and you still want to have that free session, send an email to info@dreambuilderfinancial.com, info@dreambuilderfinancial.com. And we'll see what Mimi in my office will see what she can do to arrange a time that's outside of the normal time slots that we run these, if that can work with my schedule. So I don't want to turn anybody away, but at the same time, there's only so many slots to give, and it is what it is, right? So first come, first serve, and hopefully you'll hear this right now and you'll hit pause on the podcast, go book your slot, and come back and listen to the rest of the show. So again, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. I hope that you take me up on this and take advantage of this offer. It can only help. There's no downside risk at all to joining me for that 90-minute call. So now I'm going to go into the episode that I already recorded. So here you go. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that's near and dear to my heart as a podcast host, and that is the form of marketing as a podcast, and whether you, as a law firm owner, should consider podcasting as the marketing tool for your firm. So before I go into whether or not this makes sense for a law firm, whether it makes sense for a law firm owner, I want to cover some background information on podcasting so that you can really get the lay of the land and understand why podcasting is one of the best marketing tools that you can potentially have in your arsenal. And there's no better place to start than to talk about the fact that we live in a new time. We live in a new age. The things that used to work before are not working anymore, and everything that we do is done differently. I mean, just think back 10 years ago. You didn't even have a smartphone in your hand, or if you did, you were one of the lucky ones. And even if you had a smartphone in your hand, browsing the internet on your phone was something that took forever. Now, granted, I was listening to podcasts 10 years ago, but you know how I was consuming podcasts 10 years ago? On an iPod that I had to synchronize with iTunes to download my latest episodes. And if I didn't plug it in recently, then I couldn't get the recent information, the recent podcasts. Podcasting it's a new show. It's a new radio show, right? It's people's new form of entertainment. You can get what you want when you want it and not have to listen to all these commercials, not have to wait for your show to come on at a specific time, which is even with satellite radio where you have the pick of the litter of what you're listening to, you don't even have that. Where you have to time what you're listening to at a specific time of day for your show. So it's the ultimate on-demand consumption of audio material, audio information. But the old marketing methods for law firms are a dying breed. I mean, billboard advertising, newspaper advertising, are these things even effective anymore? Where are people looking for information today compared to where they used to? You know, it used to be that when you needed an attorney for something, you had to go and ask your friends, your neighbors, to see if they had a recommendation for who to use. People's instinct today is not to ring up friends and family. Their instinct today is to open Google and do a Google search for the specific thing that they're looking for. And look at the amount of business that LegalZoom has snatched away from not just law firm owners, but from accountants as well, who specialize in entity creation and things like that. And where is it going from there? You know, contract creation, all of these things are being commoditized and being made available, and the law firm is getting left in the dust. And all of that is happening because people's behaviors are changing, and you have to stay ahead of the times. You have to be when you have your own business, you have to be paying attention to what's going on around you. And right now, what's going on around us is people are changing their behaviors, and we have to adjust and stay in tune to those behaviors and be able to still get in front of our potential clients. So that's really what this episode is going to be about. We're going to be talking about content marketing as a whole, and then specifically podcasting when it comes to your law firm. So let's just talk about content marketing. So what is content marketing? Content marketing is where you create content for consumption with the intention that consumption is going to be valuable to the person consuming it, and they will then in turn potentially need your services. And because they consumed your content, they're going to want to take the next step with you as opposed to with somebody else. Now, that doesn't always work because sometimes the content is informational to them. It gives them the information they need, and they don't remember where they saw it. They don't remember who they saw it from. So content marketing alone is not necessarily the most strategic way to market by itself. But if you combine content marketing with paid advertising, with retargeting, you can basically track when somebody's come to your website, and then you can turn around and use paid advertising to then market to them directly because they visited your website. So there are things that you can do to take advantage of that traffic. but it doesn't create that affinity to you as a person and to you as a brand. Specifically when we're talking about blogging as a form of content marketing. But content marketing takes other forms. There's video and there's podcasting, to name a couple more. So with video and podcasting, there the listener is paying attention to you as an individual. They see your face in video, they hear your voice in video, and on podcast, they hear your voice and I guess imagine your face, or if your podcast artwork like mine has your face on it, then they at least know what you look like. So content marketing gives you some things. It gives you influence. So you're able to influence people with what you write or what you say on video or what you say on the podcast. And that influence can drive their behaviors. It can drive them to purchase. It can drive them to take action. It can drive them to do something. Case in point, Meta, not intending for it to be Meta, but this podcast, actually at the end of it, I'm going to share with you about a video series that my friend Pat Flynn and my mentor, the person who I followed his instructions and his guidance to start my own podcast, he's doing a free video series to teach you how to start your podcast. And I'm going to promote that on this podcast. So I'm going to be trying to drive your behavior. I'm going to be telling you why a podcast is so important. I'm going to be telling you why it's something you should strongly consider as a marketing tool for your firm. And then I'm going to turn around and give you a breadcrumb, a trail to go and follow to take the next steps with somebody who is in the position to teach you that information. It's not something that I teach personally, but I can send you to somebody who teaches that. So it gives you influence over buyer behavior. It gives you influence over somebody to try to drive them through the door to do business with you, to become your client. It also gives you authority. So it elevates you to a position where people look at you as somebody who knows their stuff, somebody who is maybe not a celebrity, but that's the kind of thing it does. It elevates you to the point where they look up to you as somebody who's famous, who's out there, who's public. And that authority can be the difference between somebody choosing you over somebody choosing another law firm. It also can give you SEO. So one of the biggest search engines is YouTube. Another big search engine is Google. Well, when you put a search into Google, you get YouTube results and you get Google results. So you get SEO for your blog post, you get search results from your YouTube videos, and even with podcasting, you get results if your show notes are being posted as a blog post entry, then you get SEO that way. And then also all the different podcast players are pushing out your content, so all of that can potentially come up in search. And then finally, it gives you connection. A blog is, unless somebody becomes a subscriber to the blog where they're coming and specifically reading your blog on a regular basis, a blog gives you the least level of connection, and then a YouTube video, depending on how they're consuming the YouTube videos, if they're just finding you through a search and they're consuming one video, it does not give you that much of a connection. But if they subscribe to your channel and they're consuming everything you're producing, it gives you just as much of a connection, if not a greater connection, than podcasting does. But podcasting gives a unique connection that the other modes or methods of content marketing give. And podcasting is unique in that it's audio only. Now, if you think about how you consume a podcast, audio gives you the unique ability to be communicating with somebody while they are doing something else. When you want to watch a video, you got to watch the video. But when you're listening to a podcast, you can mow the lawn. You could take a shower. You could be driving. You could be doing a number of things. You can be watching your children or playing with your children, and the podcast is playing in the background. Audio gets consumed on the go. Audio gets consumed in a much more realistic fashion than video. It doesn't require dedicated consumption. Now, You can argue that that would play against podcasting because then they're not paying attention to what you're saying. But the reality is that's not true. You're listening to me right now. What are you doing? Are you exercising are you exercising in the gym or out on a bike ride or a run? Are you taking a shower? Are you cooking breakfast? I have no idea what you're doing. I'm recording this, and it's 11 o'clock at night. I just finished putting my kids to bed. My wife is asleep, and I can come down here and I can record this episode. But you're listening to it while you're doing something else. Nobody is sitting there listening to me, just listening to me and taking notes. Okay? So that's not, it doesn't need that level of attention because you're still connecting with me. You're connecting with things that I'm saying. You're connecting with my voice. You're used to hearing me, especially if you're a subscriber and you hear me every week. You're used to hearing my voice, and that creates that affinity, which when I have something available that's something that you need that will guide you to the next step, you are most likely going to want to get that from me, right? So there's a number of things that podcasting does. It's audio only. Therefore, it creates this mode of consumption that is unique to podcasting only. Another thing is the actual creation of content. One of the things why business owners in general, but specifically law firm owners, stay away or are afraid of content marketing is because you have to be consistent with it. And it sounds like a lot of work. And the truth is, it can be. Now, if you're a really good writer, then writing a blog post might not be a big deal. But if you want to do all kinds of research for it, it might take you even longer to write a blog post. Creating a video is the most time consuming because you have to get camera ready. And for the guys, that's easy. But for the women, that can take a long time. You have to be perfect for the camera, or at least you want to be. So you're going to do your hair. You're going to do your makeup. You want to look picture perfect. And then, this is for everybody, your video set needs to look nice. You're not just going to hit record on your iPhone and put it out there. Now, you could, and I would encourage you, if that's what's stopping you, to do the minimum viable level of content production to just put yourself out there. But at the same time, if you're trying to portray a professional image, you're not going to want to do that. So video is going to be the most time consuming, blogging probably the second to most, and podcasting is the least time consuming because you can easily outsource the editing, finalizing the episode. The only thing you have to do is literally get behind the microphone, turn it on, and talk for a period of time. And there's no rules. Your podcast could be 5 minutes long. You could do a 5-minute episode. You could do a 1-minute episode. You can do a 30-minute, 60-minute. I mean, there's even people out there doing 2 and 4 hour shows. Now, I would never do that to you, nor would I want to be standing behind the microphone talking for that long. It's long enough when I do interviews, which go significantly longer than my solo episodes. Case in point, today is going to be a shorter episode. Usually my solo episodes are about 30 minutes long, and I'm about 14 minutes in at this point, and I'm almost done, right? So it's going to be a shorter episode, but it doesn't matter because I got the information across. I said what I needed to say, I made my point, and I shared the value. I shared the information I wanted to share, and that's the point. So some people like to prepare for podcasting. They like to take extensive notes. Some people who are, especially if you're new, they might want to script it. That stuff is not necessary. I mean, I literally turn the microphone on and I talk. And my editor doesn't edit most of the stuff out either. All she's doing is putting on at the beginning the intro and then the outro at the end, and just cutting off any of the beginning or the end that doesn't need to be there. Usually, unless there's a major screw up in the recording, it's a one and done, and we're doing a recording and we're putting it out there. People know. They want to hear the real you, right? If you have long pauses, if something, you lost your train of thought and you go back to it, they want to hear that, right? Imagine you were on live radio, right? If you were on live radio, they would hear that anyway. There is no editing on live radio. treat the podcast like that's what you're doing, because that's what people want. They want to connect with you in that way. They want to feel real. They want to feel like you're real. So that high level of professionalism isn't necessary on this platform. So it's the fastest form of content creation, at least in my opinion. And then the most telling thing is that, when you create a blog, you're like, okay, I'm competing against so many other blogs out there. Create a YouTube channel, same thing, right? There's so much content out there. What about podcasting? You might think that it's late to the game. There's so many podcasts out there. But the reality is that currently there's less than 1 million active podcasts in the world. And there's 500 million blogs, and there's tens of millions of active YouTube channels. So podcasting is a fraction of the size of the blogging and the YouTube channels and industry out there, which means that we're still in the early stages of podcast growth. We're still on the ground floor. This is still an opportunity for you to get a seat at the table of being one of the top podcasts in your industry. Now, going back to the conversation of what do I talk about, right? What should my podcast be about? This goes back to, what episode was it? Where I talked about choosing a niche. I think it was episode 29. Yeah, 29. Why choosing a niche will skyrocket your firm. Go back and listen to episode 29, why choosing a niche will skyrocket your firm. You don't have to, but if you want to reach a market, the best way to reach a market is to be very specific about who that market is. And whether you choose a podcast, whether you choose a blog, whether you choose YouTube, you want to get really clear on who it is that you're serving, because then you create a show for them. It's not, it doesn't have to be a legal show. You can just introduce yourself as the lawyer for those people. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you are going to be the law firm owner who serves photographers. Okay, you serve the photography industry. Well, you can create a podcast called The Successful Photographer. The Successful Photographer. And people who want to be a successful photographer will tune in to your podcast. And then when you introduce yourself, you say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I am the go-to attorney for all things legal when it comes to running a photography business. And today I have with me, and then you bring your guest on. If you're doing a guest interview style show, there's many different styles of shows and so on. But my point is that it doesn't need to be that the content that you're creating is specifically legal in nature. It just needs to be that you have a platform where your target market is going to come and you're going to be elevated as the person of influence. And more importantly than that, you can then get strategic. Once you start to have people listening to your show, you can offer things for free for them to download. You start collecting their contact information. You now have a way of engaging with them and talking to them offline in another medium instead of just the podcast. And it does amazing things for you. So let's talk about what are the benefits of starting a podcast. So far, I covered what content marketing is. I covered why in today's day and age that's something that's crucial for law firm owners to think about implementing. Now, I titled this episode The Long Game because I want to make sure that you understand that this is not an overnight success thing, right? If you launch a podcast tomorrow, you're not going to start getting clients through the door because you have a podcast with an episode out. What's going to happen is there is a ramp-up period of time for people to start to learn about your show, to start to get to know you, to start to grow that affinity to you. But once it snowballs into a listenership, the business will start to roll in. So it's a long-term game. It's not something that you are going to do for a quick win. But if you start it today, 12 months from now, it's going to be creating leads for you. It's going to be bringing in new business for you. And that's the point, that this is, once it's going, once the machine is in motion, it's a machine for you. So we covered that this is a new age, and people are looking for information in new ways, and you got to do something. So content marketing, you have your choice of the type of content marketing. I talked about why podcasting is amazing. Just the level of connection that you get with your listener, that you get with your audience, and you don't see your audience, you don't hear your audience, but they are hearing you, and they know, they're listening to you, they're listening to the stories you tell, they know more about you than you realize. They know more about your past, they know about your family, because you're sharing those things. Even if you're not trying to share those things, in the different stories that you say, those things are coming out. And then when you meet them in person, and they're going to walk over to you and introduce themselves as somebody who already knows you, which is a little creepy, but at the same time, it creates such a strong affinity and connection to you that it becomes a no-brainer for them if they have a need that you can fulfill, they're not going anywhere else. So what are the benefits of podcasting specifically for your law firm? So number one, it's the most engaged audience. We just covered that. Number two, many will go out of their way to use you. Covered that as well. Number three, if you do guest interviews on your show, what that gives you an opportunity for is to connect with other referral sources and other podcast hosts and other influencers. So other blog writers, other newspaper writers, anybody who you invite could be strategic in creating those connections, those alliances, so that you have this circle of influence that's growing over time, and they start to refer people to you. Being connected with them gives you other opportunities. Just look at the Law Firm Growth Summit. I started with the podcast in March. And the podcast created connections with people that allowed me to recruit the speakers I needed for the summit. It allowed me to bounce the idea of the summit off of some of these people to get their opinion. It gave me connection to sponsors, and it gave me a position of authority to be able to get sponsors the first time around, because they saw that I had this podcast, because they saw that I am here in the marketplace. I didn't just wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to run a summit for law firm owners. So obviously, that has nothing to do with your business model, but I'm just showing you the power of the connections that get created through the podcast, through interviewing people. You really get to know them in that hour you spend with them. And getting those people on the phone, it could be that you're interviewing people in your target market, and that could be another source of referral or of new clients just from the people you're interviewing. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I do when I do my outreach on LinkedIn is I send out a message saying, hey, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with law firm owners. I'm the host of the Profit with Law podcast and the Law Firm Growth Summit, so that even when I send out the connection request and somebody is wary about accepting the request, they're like, who is this guy? Right away, they see that I'm the podcast host, right? Which they might be honored that they're getting a connection request from me, or they might be not wanting to accept it because why the heck am I sending them a connection request? Either way, it gives me something to hang my hat on and say, here, this is who I am. But also when I'm sending them messages afterwards to try to get them on the phone, one of the things I can say is, hey, I'm looking for new guests to interview. Do you have a past experience that would be valuable to share with my audience? I would love to have you on the show. So it gives me an opportunity to get them onto that hour interview, where at the end of the interview, if we really connected and I saw a need, I could then invite them to continue with me, perhaps in a free coaching session or something from there, where we can get into them potentially working with me one-on-one. And then finally, the best of both worlds. Having a podcast out there is going to give you the podcasting search algorithm. And at the same time, if you have show notes and things like that, it's going to give you that blog and SEO search capability as well. So if after listening to this, you're thinking, okay, I really want to investigate starting a podcast for my law firm. I want to see what that would look like, and I want to know, how do I get started? I told you earlier, I'm going to give you access. So basically, Pat Flynn is the host of the Smart Passive Income podcast. His podcast has been downloaded over 65 million times. 65 million downloads Pat has had, and he teaches people how to podcast. He has a course, a paid course for it, but he's doing a free video series to teach you why you must start a podcast and how to do it right. And he's going to go through those steps with you. And then if you decide that it is for you, you'll have an opportunity to purchase his course and go through it and follow his step-by-step process and actually create your podcast and put it out there. So the stuff that he's doing right now is free. There's no obligation. All you got to do is put in your name and your email address, and you can watch the video series. By the time that you're listening to this, that will be live, and you'll be able to go and consume it. So profitwithlaw.com/start a podcast. profitwithlaw.com/start a podcast will take you to Pat's page where you can sign up for his video training on why you must start a podcast and how to do it right. Now, I should have plugged this at the beginning of the episode. As a matter of fact, I'll go back and edit it. So there you go. That's the types of edits that we're doing. We are doing here, I'm running a group coaching program called the 90-Day Law Firm Turnaround Group Coaching Program. If you have not seen the level of growth that you wanted to see in your firm, you started your firm for a reason, and now you find that you're working nights and weekends, and you're still just not moving the needle, and you don't have much to show for it, right? Not that you're not successful. You're successful to an extent, right? You're bringing in that top line revenue, but you're not taking home enough money from the business that you'd like. If you want to turn that around, if you want to figure out what is stopping you, what's standing in your way for achieving your results, I'm offering free coaching sessions. They're 90-minute sessions where we get laser focused on you. We talk about your situation. We talk about what's going on with you and figure out and highlight what might be causing you to get in your own way. And at the end of the free coaching session, I give you an opportunity to join my 90-Day Law Firm Turnaround Group Coaching Program. You do not need to join that. So if you got enough value out of the free session and you don't want to take that next step, that's fine. There's absolutely no obligation. The opportunity to take me up on that free coaching session offer is coming to a close because our group program is starting on March 16th. So you just have from release of this just about 2 weeks to book that free coaching session with me, and we can have that conversation and see if I can, how I can help you and try to, at least through those 90 minutes, try to get you headed in the right direction. So if you're interested in that, go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. Again, that's profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And I look forward to seeing your calendar reservation for that call with me. And I've been doing a ton of these, by the way. So I opened up 20 spots in February, and we booked all of those slots. I had 1 or 2 cancellations, but we did probably about 18 of those calls in February, and we've got a full calendar for this week. And then next week, there's still some open spots. So there's actually not that many spots left. So if you want to grab that, make sure that you do it right away. Don't wait until the last minute because you might not be able to get onto my calendar at all. So once again, if you want to join the training from Pat Flynn about starting a podcast, that's profitwithlaw.com/start a podcast. And if you want to sign up for a free coaching session with me, go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And finally, if you're out and about and you don't have a chance to write this stuff down, you can always visit the show notes page, profitwithlaw.com/066, profitwithlaw.com/066 for today's episode show notes. Thank you so much for joining me, and I am excited. This Thursday, we have another amazing guest interview. So we'll be sharing that with you, and I will see you guys again pretty soon. Take care. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.